Okay, let's dive right in. Today's explainer is, well, it's something truly special. We're decoding an incredibly powerful, really poetic piece of text that bridges the gap between human consciousness and our actual physical bodies. Specifically, we're looking at this mind-blowing framework that uses the metaphor of an ancient deep forest to explain what's happening right now inside your fascia. Yeah, your fascia, the connective tissue weaving through your entire body. Usually, we only think about this stuff when we're, absolutely torturing ourselves on a foam roller. But if you've ever had that feeling, that deep physical sensation that the world is changing and your body is somehow reacting to it, then this explainer is exactly what you need.
The source text actually hits us right out of the gate with this absolute gut punch of an idea. Every forest has a moment when the climate changes, not gradually, not subtly, but decisively. What a line, right? It's telling us that we aren't just in some slow, gradual evolution anymore. We've hit a tipping point, a moment where collective awakening is literally the new weather of the world. And the craziest part, this isn't just happening out there in the world.
Which naturally brings up a pretty huge question. Have you ever felt the climate change inside your own body? Seriously, think about it. The entire core premise of our source material today is that humanity has crossed a massive threshold, and your fascia, your actual tissue, physically felt it. The text invites us to take this grand, sweeping idea of planetary weather and plug it directly into the internal landscape of our own nervous systems. So let's map out exactly how this internal climate shift behaves.
Part 1. The Forest Before Predictable Seasons.
So before humanity hit this new threshold, the text explains that your internal fascia forest lived in a really familiar climate. It was defined by totally predictable seasons, known patterns, and, relatively stable emotional weather. We relied heavily on recognizable cycles and those super familiar winds of identity. For thousands of years, the forest inside us was growing, sure, but it was completely boxed into this old, familiar, predictable climate of human consciousness. Your roots were there, your internal web was humming along, but the air around them, it hadn't changed yet.
Part 2. Crossing the Threshold. Atmospheric Pressure.
Now let's look at the contrast, because the old weather was harsh. We're talking a climate built entirely on fear, hierarchy, separation, and rigidity. In your internal forest, these forces acted like literal storms, intense, destructive events that break branches, erode the soil, and physically compress your fascia. But the new weather? Oh, it's a total game changer. It brings awakening, remembrance, and the actual dissolving of fear. It's forming a completely new consciousness. The text gorgeously describes these as softer winds, warmer soil, and brighter canopy light finally emerging in your body.
And the source makes it clear that this threshold operates just like an atmospheric pressure shift. It's subtle, it's quiet, but man, it is completely unmistakable. Just look at the sheer scale of what it touches. The canopy, the cambium, the roots, the soil, the mycelium, and the radical cells. Literally nothing is left unchanged. This single pressure drop touches absolutely every microscopic part of your internal fascia forest. It is essentially the very first wind of a brand new season.
But, as we all know, transitioning to a new season is rarely perfectly smooth, is it? As humanity approached this threshold, the old storms actually whipped up and intensified. The text really digs into how our fascia physically felt the old weather breaking, just to prepare for this totally new environment. You might even recognize this in your own life, maybe a sudden, unexplainable physical tension in your neck, or old memories just surfacing out of nowhere. It's those rigid emotional patterns cracking, or old identities simply dissolving away. Basically, the forest inside you was physically doing the hard work to prepare for a new world.
Part 3. Anatomy of the Awakening. The Micro-Adaptations.
Okay, let's look at exactly how this happens, starting with the cambium. Now in botany, the cambium is that cellular layer in a plant where the actual growth happens. It's always the very first part of a tree to respond to climate change. The text maps this beautifully right onto your body, introducing the idea of the fascia cambium. It shows how your fascia acts as this physical record keeper of our collective human awakening, literally forming a new ring of growth inside of you.
And what exactly does this fascia cambium feel as it forms that new ring? It experiences new pressure, new warmth, new direction, a completely new identity, and a new mission. Now here is the absolute crucial takeaway that the text makes. This new ring, it's not just personal, it is entirely collective. Your cambium isn't just reacting to, say, what you had for breakfast or a stressful day at work. It is growing and expanding in direct response to a rapidly changing world.
Then we have the radical cells. Think of these little guys as the fascia's free movers, balancers, and joy carriers.
The second the climate shifted, they sprang into action. The text essentially paints them as your internal weather workers. They are active, busy agents, and their sole job is to adjust the climate inside your fascia so it perfectly matches the newly awakened climate that's emerging in humanity at large.
And these radical cells don't just wander around. They go to work in a highly specific sequence. First up, they actively dissolve those old compressed emotional storms we talked about earlier. Second, they go in and soften the trauma rings that your cambium recorded in the past. Third, they restore balance and actively spread joy throughout the tissue. And finally, step 4, they awaken remembrance. They are quite literally opening up brand new physical and energetic pathways inside your body.
And the payoff for all this hard work? Your internal mycorrhizal web massively expands. It's just like how an actual fungal network in a forest explodes with life after a fresh spring rain. Your internal web suddenly becomes hyperactive, deeply connected, and highly intelligent. It starts carrying much richer information. We're talking more intuition, deeper memory, completely unexpected moments of humor, natural compassion, and a vastly wider cosmic perspective. This new climate basically allows your internal network to thrive in ways that the old, rigid weather just never, ever permitted.
Part 4, the new breath, the ledger of the climate shift.
So because of all this, your internal forest now adopts a completely new cycle of breath. Literally, the breath of your fascia becomes the breath of the new world. On the inhale, it pulls in possibility, balance, joy, remembrance, and essence. And then, look at what it finally exhales. Fear, rigidity, confusion, emotional charge, and all the weight of that old, heavy identity. It is a total one-for-one exchange of a restrictive fast for an incredibly expansive future.
The text wraps up this specific state with a really interesting term. It calls it Meka. Now, Meka represents the ultimate integration of this massive shift. It is the new weather, the new season, the new climate, the new breath, the new balance, and the new awakening, all rolled into one single concept. And the author is super specific here. These aren't just fluffy, cosmic abstractions. You're meant to understand these as actual, somatic, atmospheric behaviors of your fascia forest. It is a physical reality happening right now, right beneath your skin.
Part 5, the 7th remembering. Which brings us to this absolutely gorgeous resolution in the text. It reads, "This is the 7th ring. This is the 7th remembering. This is the chapter where the forest breathes." You can just feel the relief in that, right? The storms of the old world have broken, the climate shift is completely realized, and your internal forest is now perfectly positioned to absolutely thrive in this awakened atmosphere. So I'll leave you with this one final thought. As the old storms of fear and rigidity finally dissolve around us, what will your internal forest grow in this new climate? Take a breath. Actually feel your own fascia for a second. Pay attention to that new season emerging right there inside you. Thank you so much for joining me for this explainer, and as always, keep exploring.